Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Functional Longevity Podcast, where we give you insight on how to get fit, feel younger, live better. I'm your host, Chris Borda, best-selling author and owner of Y.E.S Fitness. And let me first thank you for taking time from your busy day to listen to what I have to say. And before I also get started, let me thank our sponsor, Y.E.S Fitness. People lose the ability to enjoy life as they age. At Y.E.S Fitness, we help people age 40 plus get fit so they can live longer and enjoy those extra years doing the things they love to do. Some quick housekeeping here. If you want to get a timestamp or a transcript of today's broadcast, head on over to yesfitnessct.com. Scroll up top to top. You'll see a button for podcasts. Click on it, and it will now give you access to any of our now 400 episodes. 400 episodes. That's crazy. You can also get this broadcast wherever podcasts can be found. The hidden brain boost from strength training after 40. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know I'm not big on trends. And I have been talking about the brain quite a bit recently. It's great to live longer and be fit and healthy, but if we don't have our brain, what does it mean? Absolutely nothing. And I've seen friends, family members go through this where they have to deal with the loss of cognitive function, and it is not a pretty thing. So, you know that I don't chase the new supplements. I don't jump on every headline, but I do like to take a look at research. And when multiple areas of research start pointing in the same direction, and it matches exactly what we see on the gym floor, this is why you pay attention. And this is why I'm continuing to talk about the brain. And right now, the research is very clear on one thing. Your workouts are not just shaping your body. They are directly impacting your brain. And this problem starts earlier than you think. Most people think brain decline happens later in life. But research shows changes in processing speed, coordination, and reaction time can begin in your 40s. Not dramatic, but enough to affect how you move, how you react, and how confident you feel physically. And most people do nothing about it. So we got the first study here that's going to show that exercise literally changes brain biology. It's a study out of the University of San Francisco, and they looked at what happens in the body after exercise. Researchers focused on a liver-derived enzyme called GPLD1. GPLD1. And here's what they found. When levels of GPLD1 were increased in older mice, even without additional exercise, the mice showed improved learning ability, better memory performance, increased neurogenesis, which is the growth of new brain cells. I know we're talking about animals, but many of this translates to the human body. So the key takeaway is not the enzyme itself, it's what it represents. Exercise creates biological changes that support brain function and support. This is not just feel-good science. This is measurable changes at the cellular level. So we have a second study about strength training and brain age. There are now human studies using MRI imaging to estimate something called brain age. This compares your brain structure to typical aging patterns. In resistance training studies, participants who trained consistently showed better preservation of gray matter, improved white matter integrity, and in some cases, brains that appeared to be up to about 2 years younger than their chronological age. Even more important, these changes were most noticeable in areas tied to executive function, decision-making, and memory. This is real-life function. This is not just lab data. Why coordination-based training matters here. Another layer of research shows that not all exercise affects the brain the same way. Simple, repetitive motion has benefits. But when you add complexity, the impact increases. in complexity in the brain, making it have to think, is a key here. It increases things like single leg training, balance challenges, directional changes. When we did this, these require motor planning and stability, real-time feedback between the brain and body. Studies show that this type of training increases activity in the cerebellum and prefrontal cortex. Those are areas responsible for coordination, focus, and decision-making. So when someone is doing controlled intentional movement, they're training their brains at the same time. And here's what most people get wrong. Most people think, I move, so I'm good. Walking, light cardio, random workouts. And again, that is better than nothing. Don't get me wrong, it's better than nothing, but it's not enough to drive adaptation in many ways. And now we see it's the brain. The research consistently shows that the biggest cognitive benefits come from progressive resistance training, making your programs harder. There's certain ways to do that, more ways than I can really discuss in this broadcast, but progressive resistance training. You can't just go to the gym and do the same thing over and over and over again. You can't just go in your basement and do the same thing over and over again. We need to have challenging movement patterns, and we need to stay consistent over time. Consistent, always a key to just about all success in life, not just burning calories. And here's the bonus insight that changes everything. There was a study out of Yale School of Public Health that looked at aging from different perspectives. Instead of assuming decline, they tracked functional ability over time. And what they found was this: a significant number of individuals actually improved with age. Stronger, more capable, more independent. Like how we see this all the time in the gym. But only when they stayed engaged in physical and mental challenging activities. That's the key. Aging is not just biology, it's a behavior. What we see in the real world here, okay, this is where everything lines up because we see this every day. Someone comes in, they feel weaker, less stable, less confident. And with a few months of structured training, they move better, they react faster, they feel sharper. This is not random. This is the brain adapting along with the body on a structured program. So what should you be doing? If you're over 40, this is what matters most. Strength training at least 2 times a week. I should simply talk about this every single week, but the muscle is the longevity organ, period. Train a couple times a week with progressive and intent, not random workouts. Include movements that challenge coordination, single leg work, balance work, controlled instability. Train with focus. It's not just getting through the workout, actually engaging with the movement and staying consistent, because this is long-term protection. Perfect. That's exactly what this needed. This is where you bridge research with real application, which is your edge. I'll drop this in as a clean section right before the bottom line. So, what is the question, right? This is right here at the bottom line, right here. Comes up all the time. What does this actually look like in a real program? Because this is where people get stuck. They hear the research, they get motivated, and they go out and do random workouts. This is not what we're talking about here. If your goal is to support your brain and your body after 40, your training needs to have structure. And here is what that actually looks like. Number 1, strength training with progressions. 2 to 3 days a week, not just exercise thrown together. You're tracking loads, reps, sets, tempo, quality of movement, and you're gradually increased demand over time. And you need to have a little rest in there as well, between sets, between exercises, and between phases. You need to have a deload phase. This is what drives adaptation in both the body and the brain. Number 2, we need to do some single leg and stability work every session. This is a non-negotiable. Split squats, step ups, single leg RDLs, they force your brain to stabilize, adjust, and control movement real time. Because this is where you build balance, coordination, joint control. And that has direct carryover to real life. Number 3 is controlled power and intent. This is not about max effort jumping. This is about intent. Medicine ball throws, low-level jumps, fast but controlled movements. They're training your body to produce force and your brain to coordinate it. That connection is critical. Moving on to number 4, movement variety that challenges you.
What would you like me to turn off?
Not random, but varied enough to require focus. Different planes of motion, different positions, different movement demands. If every workout feels the same, your brain is not challenged. Number 5, enough intensity to force change. And this is where people fall short. It has to do with challenging, not exhausting, but challenging. There is no progression. There is no adaptation. If you don't progress, you're not going to adapt. You find this anywhere in the body. And number 6, consistency over time. This is not a 6-week fix. This is a long-term strategy because the research shows we don't benefit from random effort. It shows benefits from consistent, progressive training. Why does all this matter? When you train like this, you're not just building muscle, you're building a system that keeps you strong, capable, sharp, stable. And that is what allows you to keep doing the things you love doing as you age. So the bottom line here, we've spent years thinking about exercise is about appearance, weight loss, and looking better. But the research is telling us something is much bigger. Your training is one of the most powerful tools you have to protect your brain, to maintain independence, and to slow how fast you age. That changes the conversation completely. Again, if we don't have our brain, we don't have anything. We may be fit, we may be healthy, but without our brain, we have nothing. So if you're not training in a way that challenges you, if you're not seeing results, this is exactly why structure matters, because doing something is not the same as doing the right thing. Just because you're doing something doesn't mean you're getting it done. So if you found this episode helpful, share with someone who wants to stay strong, sharp, and independent as they age. And a reminder, the goal is not just to live longer. The goal is to live better with our brain. So keep training, keep moving. I'm Chris Borda, and this is the Functional Longevity Podcast. And I will see you next week with more information on how to get fit, feel younger, and live better. Thanks for watching.